Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. So we have some friends joining us today for the reading.
Yeah. They're just going to listen like you guys listen.
They're directing, they're not listening.
What?
Mm-hmm. They're the directors.
You got to listen to direct now.
Oh yeah, you're right, sorry. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Where are we at? We're in the same spot we were in yesterday. We can't go outside because it's raining, it's cold. I'm so tired of being stuck inside, but anyway.
Okay, it's text, Canto 3, Chapter 16, Text 33. But those two gatekeepers, the best of the demigods, their beauty and luster diminished by the curse of the Brahmanas, became morose and fell from Vaikuntha, the abode of the Supreme Lord. Okay,
so already we just heard that they weren't in Vaikuntha. That's how they fell. That they were actually, or no, that was the four Kumars never made it to Vaikuntha, and all this happened outside at the gates of Vaikuntha. But here the Bhagavatam itself says they basically fell from Vaikuntha.
Yeah, because they are from Vaikuntha.
Mm-hmm.
That's their job, to stand at the gate.
Okay. But previously it was a whole thing about how no one, you can't, devotee, they can't actually fall. Of course it was all the Lord's arrangement. Yeah, see, after thus speaking at the door, it is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuntha. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuntha Loka, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world? Okay, so that was specifically referring to the four Kumars. Okay.
Text 34. Then, as Jay and Vijay fell from the Lord's abode, a great roar of disappointment arose from all the demigods, who were sitting in their splendid airplanes. It's like Gauranga Mahaprabhu's trying to... You know when you take a picture and someone tries to hide your face? Can you see his little hand? Alright, demigods are upset. Text 35. Lord Brahma continued, those two principal doorkeepers of the personality of Godhead have now entered the womb of deity, the powerful semen of Kashyap Muni, having covered them. Here is clear proof of how a living entity coming originally from Vaikuntha Loka is encaged in material elements. The living entity takes shelter within the semen of a father, which is injected within the womb of a mother, and with the help of the father's mother's emulsified ovum, the living entity grows a particular type of body. In this connection, it is to be remembered that the mind of Kashyap Muni was not in order when he conceived the two sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Therefore, the semen he discharged was simultaneously extremely powerful and mixed with the quality of anger. It is to be concluded that while conceiving a child, one's mind must be very sober and devotional. For this purpose, the Garbhadhana Samskara is recommended in the Vedic scriptures. If the mind of the child is not sober... I'm not sober. If the mind of the father is not sober, the semen discharge will not be very good. Thus, the living entity wrapped in the matter produced from the father and mother will be demoniac, like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. The conditions of conception are to be carefully studied. This is a very great science.
Interesting, huh? Any thoughts?
Yeah, it reminded me, one devotee reminded me this recently, that, I mean, I don't want to get sued or anything, but when Prince George, the future King of England, was born, it was the most horrendous day in the world. It was like thunder, lightning.
And it was hail and all kinds
Oh,
of
it was
stuff.
horrible. And Prabhupada does explain that when demoniac personalities take birth, I'm just saying, I'm not anti-royal, by the way, when they take birth, these things happen. And there's this devotee, I don't know why, that just reminded me, something else we were talking about, and I was remembering, I remember that, because I was waiting, because I'm sort of interested in these things, and it was a horrible day. That's just what came to my mind. But I'm not saying he's Hiranyakashipu or on that level, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I remember that. It was also a thought that, crossed my mind. Who is this person that's just come into the world? There's all kinds of stuff happening. But anyway, the Prabhupada points out this, that it's a science, he says. He says it's a very great science, and it should be carefully studied. And the point being that the consciousness with which we do things, the consciousness that we're in, it has a powerful effect on the result, or and when I say with which we do things, means anything, because any activity that we perform is going to give birth to some reaction or some result, because for every action there's an equal and opposing reaction. So whatever our consciousness is with which we do things, it will give birth to some result. And if we do things in an angry consciousness, then the result is probably going to be that of anger. If we do things in just a bad consciousness in general, lazy, morose, depressed consciousness, then that will be the result. And we may not see it immediately, but the result will ultimately bear its fruit. So it's a really important point that the consciousness with which we do things, what to speak of. Cooking is an important thing. I remember when first coming to Krishna consciousness and discussion about cooking, and the devotee friend I was living with, and he would say, no, when you cook you have to really remember it's an offering for Krishna, and cook it with your heart and soul as an offering to Krishna. And I was thinking, wow, and you could see that it actually works, and I've heard many stories from many devotees about that the consciousness that we cook with, the consciousness is conducted through the flame, and it goes into the food, and that's why in general, we don't eat out, because we have no idea what the consciousness is of the person putting it in. Of course, sometimes we might not be in the best consciousness when we're cooking either. But at the same time, so what to speak of if we're, producing a child, bringing another jiva into the world, then it behooves us to really be in the correct consciousness when we do that. So anyway, I think it's interesting. Prabhupada says this is a very great science and it should be carefully studied. So. Text 36, yeah, we're okay to move on. It is the prowess of these twin asuras. It's my turn to read? Yeah. It is the prowess of these twin asuras, demons, that has disturbed you, for it has minimized your power. There is no remedy within my power, however, for it is the Lord Himself who desires to do all of this. So Lord Brahma has just been explaining everything to the demigods, because they came to him freaking out, like, what's going on? There's like some powerful demons who've just appeared, and all havoc is being unleashed. And he's saying, he just told him, this is the whole story, this is what happened, but I'm powerless to do anything because it's the Lord's will. So purport. Although Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, formerly Jai and Vijay, became asuras, the demigods of this material world could not control them, and therefore Lord Brahma said that neither he nor all the demigods could counteract the disturbance they created. They came within the material world by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and He alone could counteract such disturbances. In other words, although Jai and Vijay assumed the bodies of asuras, they remained more powerful than anyone. Interesting. Thus proving that the Supreme Personality of Godhead desired to fight, because the fighting spirit is also within Him. He is the original in everything, but when He desires to fight, He must fight with a devotee. which we generally don't do. Therefore, by his desire only were Jai and Vijay cursed by the Kumaras. The Lord ordered the gatekeepers to go down to the material world to become his enemies, so that he could fight with them and his fighting desires would be satisfied by the service of his personal devotees.
Brahma showed the demigods that the situation created by the darkness for which they were disturbed was the desire of the Supreme Lord. He wanted to show that even though these two attendants were coming in the form of demons, they were very powerful, greater than the demigods, who could not control them. No one can surpass the acts of the Supreme Lord. The demigods were also advised not to try to counteract this incident, because it was ordered by the Lord. Similarly, anyone who is ordered by the Lord to perform such action in this material world, especially preaching his glories, cannot be counteracted by anyone. The will of the Lord is executed under all circumstances. Indeed. Indeed.
So, very interesting that these two personalities are more powerful than the other demigods, even more powerful than Lord Brahma, because they were actually residents of Vaikuntha, and they were empowered specifically by the Lord to come for a purpose. So, like that. Text 37.
Yes.
And this is the last verse and purport for this chapter. My dear sons, the Lord is the controller of the three modes of nature and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yoga Maya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. The most ancient person, the personality of Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject? What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject? So in one sense, I guess he's going to come and take care of it. So why should we waste time sitting around here trying to figure out how to take care of it ourselves? It's really up to him. Purport: when something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculations. There you go. When the Lord wants to do something, it's the Lord's prerogative. He can do it, even if it seems like a reverse according to our calculations. For example, sometimes we see that a powerful preacher is killed, or sometimes he is put into difficulty, just as Haridas Thakur was. He was a great devotee who came into this material world to execute the will of the Lord by preaching the Lord's glories. But Haridas was punished at the hands of the Kazi by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. Similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified, and Prahlad Maharaj was put through so many tribulations. The Pandavas, who were direct friends of Krishna, lost their kingdom. Their wife was insulted, and they had to undergo many severe tribulations. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees, one should not be disturbed. One should simply understand that in these matters there must be some plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There you go. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. Interesting. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord even in reverse conditions is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planets. Lord Brahma assured the demigods that there was no use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place, and since the actual fact was that it was ordered by the Supreme Lord. So what's the point in moaning and groaning and grumbling and griping about it? Brahma knew this because he was a great devotee. It was possible for him to understand the plan of the Lord. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Two Doorkeepers of Vaikuntha, Jai and Vijay, Cursed by the Sages. Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Any final thoughts on that? Because that last purport is so powerful.
Yeah, it takes a lot of surrender to accept the will of the Lord when things are not going well.
Yeah.
One has to question if the Lord is a bit busy and drop the ball, but he doesn't, does he?
Well, God, are you busy? Did you drop the ball? I mean, just imagine how many balls the Lord is keeping in motion, how many plates He's spinning and has arranged to spin. And He is always within the heart of everyone, what to speak of His devotees. And we've heard through this just how much the devotees mean to the Lord, and He's willing to lop off His own arm for if His arm somehow offends His devotees. So whatever the Lord is trying to do, although it may seem like a reversal, but we have to somehow think positively, even in the most negative of situations, to really try to see the Lord's hand. And if we can do that, then, I mean, Prabhupada quotes, but it reminds me of, 10:14, 26, 24. Can't remember the exact verse number. It's Tatenu Kampam Susamikshimano, which is the verse where it says that one who can continue to worship the Lord, bow down and offer prayers to the Lord, all the while suffering the reactions of his past previous activities, becomes a dayabak, a rightful heir to the kingdom of God. And Prabhupada says right here, even one who continues to serve the Lord even in reverse conditions is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to the Vaikuntha planet. So whatever the difficulties, whatever the challenges, we must be positive and know that the Lord is present and He has a plan, and we just keep taking shelter, and ultimately we'll see. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, and Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Thank you all very much. Just another reminder, we're in the marathon now for December, and if anyone would like to sponsor any books or receive any books, now's a good time to do it. Any time's a good time, but now's a good time also. All right, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Haribo.
Shishigor Nitai Ki Jai.
Yeah.
Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo.